Y'all, I tried to make a eyebrow powder today and eyeliner myself from charcoal, and it was a mess. And also mascara, and now I see like all these little specks in my vision. Highly recommend if you want to get little black speckles all over your face. Yikes. Hello, my historical fashion friends, and welcome back to another dye journey. If you've seen one of my other videos, you'll recognize this piece of fabric from my madder and onion skin dye video. Now, today's video is a little different because I'm not going to be showing you the fabric on display. I'm actually wearing the fabric and the garment that the fabric was made from, which is my Foundations Revealed entry. So if you're following Foundations Revealed, go check me out on there. Take a look at my costume in full, and I hope that you like it. If you look inside, you'll also recognize this fabric from the same madder and onion skin dye video. So this is the madder, and this is the onion skin dye. Now, if you've been keeping up with my channel, you'll know that this video was meant to be a juniper berry dye video, which juniper berries are involved in the dye, but you'll see why I kind of had to alter the recipe because it wasn't strong enough, again. So I'm not using pure white wool when I'm doing these dye projects because I'm buying all of it secondhand, and I can't really control super well the exact starting color of the fabric. It usually ends up being kind of like beige or something. So yeah, you'll see what happened in just a second, but it wasn't exactly what I planned. However, I do really like the result, and this is like actually one of my favorite colors, so now I know how to make this color if I want to make a lot more things this color. And now, on to the process. Like all my dye projects, I started by mordanting my fabric with alum and cream of tartar in my bathtub. I just add warm water and let it submerge for a few hours, turning about every half hour to make sure all parts are soaked thoroughly. For this dye experiment, I decided to use a dye bag instead of having to sift out all the tiny bits after. I poured the entire 1 pound bag of juniper berries into the muslin cloth and tied it up so that the berries couldn't escape. Then I secured that to the side of the pot. It basically works like a giant tea bag. Though, unlike tea, the results of this brewing were not apparent for many minutes. I had originally thought to only use juniper berries on this dye project, but once again, my dye bath was not strong enough. After about 30 minutes, the water was a pale greenish yellow color. I began to have a sneaking suspicion that I was going to have to alter my plan. Now, I was still trying to keep my olive green desired final result, so I tried adding about half a pound of dried yarrow flowers, as it has a similar hue to juniper. For this, I made a second giant tea bag. I added this bag to the warm juniper water and let them both continue soaking. I was careful not to let the temperature get too hot, as I had read it can create some undesired results. After a soak of many hours, I went to bring the pot to the fabric instead of carrying wet wool across my entire apartment like last time, because on occasion, I learned my lesson. I added the fabric in and let it soak. After a few hours, I realized the fabric color was not changing at all. I decided to try adding in my iron mordant anyway to see if the green would take. I made this mordant myself with rusty nails. Then, after stirring the mordant around, I put the fabric back in to soak. I was trying to see if the dye bag was changing color at all, but it really looked quite faint to me. After a couple more hours with no change happening, I got too frustrated and decided to go for something tried and true. I pulled out my bag of madder and resolved myself to create a blood red fabric instead. I used vinegar to make a paste with the madder, as I saw this recommended somewhere, though honestly I can't remember where, as I've watched and read so many things on dyeing at this point. I think it might have been Ylva the Red. I'm sorry, I probably totally destroyed that name, but I think it might have been her. Not sure. I put a massive amount of madder in, but didn't measure because I was in a bad mood about my failed experiment. After the paste seemed well blended, I mixed it into the Juniper and Yarrow flower mixture. Then I brought it back to the stove to warm up. After it was warm, I brought the pot back to the tub and put my fabric in. Mixing it around, I could see the color taking hold immediately. It looked a bit brown and I wasn't sure what the final result was going to be, but after leaving the fabric overnight, I returned to the pot and saw that it had taken a lovely blood red shade as I had hoped. I rinsed it out and there was no repeat of the tragic woad incident. This dye was staying in the fabric. I hung the fabric up to dry and the next morning saw the beautiful result. I have to say, something about the madder and the iron gave me a bit of a sore throat, as some particles got tossed in the air when I was looking at the fabric and taking it down off the shower rod. So one big thing that happened was that the fabric shrunk a lot in this process, and I actually ended up not having enough for my original design, so I kind of had to do a change of plans, although I'm glad I did because I actually really like the final result, and I think it would look cool with other garments that I'm making and other longer kirtles. I entered a swatch of this fabric into a dye journal that I'm keeping, and let me know if you want to see like a tour of my dye journal. It has little swatches of every fabric that I've used so far to make some dye projects, and it has the before and the after, and I wrote down what components were used. So hopefully I'll be actually doing some more exact measurements next time. Probably gonna get a scale because it's kind of hard to experiment when you can never replicate your experiment. Science. After the giant tea bag was dry and I had taken out all the juniper and rinsed it out, I actually saw that it kind of did work, but it only worked because the muslin bag was so light and it took on a really faint green shade. So it just would have never taken to the already darker beige wool. In about a month's time, I'll be starting a dye project for my Tudor kirtle, which will be coming up in a little while. If you have any ideas on what color you want to see me try next, you can put them in the comments down below. I'm really hoping that I might be able to actually get a green sometime, so maybe I'll try that. Maybe I'll just brew a really, really strong batch of something. I think if I go to the woods and find also like leaves and bark from a juniper tree, it might work a little better. Be sure to subscribe if you want to see more dye experiment videos. Give it a like and leave a comment down below of things that you've dyed, or if you have tried to dye with juniper, which I haven't seen a lot of videos on. Or let me know if you also entered the Foundations Revealed contest so I can go check out your costume when it comes out. Thanks for watching!